to the realities of life. Here's another way to transform them. Use it as a spur to, to get back into the gold spiritual gym. Today there may be health, wealth, enjoyment, and no problems, but life is fleeting and deceptive, and the body is just on loan. Things are impermanent. Things are changing. And so when an irritating person, pops up in your life, things have changed. You went from a life in which there wasn't an irritating person into a life in which there was an irritating person. Change. And that's the way life is, actually. Life is filled with change. And to think that it's not is ignorance. To think that, for example, that you would always go through life without ever having an irritating person is naive, to say the least. So when the irritating person appears, well, thank you for the reminder that, you can't just like sit, comfortably in your, safety comfort zone and not expect things to change on you. So this is kind of a heavy-duty version on this. Today there might be health, enjoyment, and no problems, but who knows what tomorrow will bring? Is your health a changing thing or an unchanging thing? What do you think? Is your wealth a changing thing or unchanging? Yeah. Is your youth a changing thing or an unchanging thing? So things are changing all the time, and a large part of our suffering. You ready for this? A large part of our suffering, in fact, increasingly, I think the entirety of our suffering. I'll go so far as to say the entirety is not the changingness of life. It's not the vicissitudes. You know the word vicissitudes of life, but our resistance to them. Our thinking that somehow they shouldn't happen, that change shouldn't happen. See, the Buddha said, life is suffering. That was the first thing that the Buddha said is, y'all are suffering. Upon enlightenment, he said, y'all, it's a loose translation, but and then in the text they spell it out. Birth is suffering, old age is suffering, sickness is suffering, and death is suffering. And at a certain level that's true. Birth is suffering, Birth is suffering for the baby. The baby's being pushed out of a very small canal. Certainly suffering for mom, almost always. Suffering for dad too, because we have to go watch now. Completely ineffectually. Birth is suffering. There's blood everywhere, screaming. Old age is suffering. Everyone who's getting older, anyone getting older here? Who knows? Little things go wrong all of a sudden. You don't know why. You wake up with a stiff neck all of a sudden. Nobody tackled you the night before. Things start going wrong on you. Sickness is suffering. When you get sick, it's no picnic, right? And death is suffering. It's not hard to lose people that you love. To death, and it's hard to die. It's hard to lose the people that you love, also by having to die. So at one level, of course, he's right. But at another level, I think at a deeper level, we have to think of it like this. Birth is not suffering. It's the expectations that we have of birth that cause suffering. That somehow it will be like, all done in like kind of golden light and, soft music playing and everyone will be happy and there won't be any blood. And then it doesn't turn out that way and we go, oh. That's not what I expected. That's not what I had hoped for in my dreams. It's not the reality. See, it's not the reality that's the problem. It's the inability to face reality. It's the dreams that we have that reality should be different than the way it is. Old age is not suffering. It's the expectation that you would be young forever that's suffering. And then that expectation isn't, kind of borne out. Disease, sickness is not suffering unless you think that you would always be healthy. You see, and who guaranteed you that ever? You see, why did you think that in the first place? Why do we do this? Death is not suffering either. As long as we didn't have some kind of imaginary hope that we would never die, death is not suffering. See, death is also not suffering in the sense that if we understand death as just a moment in life, it's not suffering either, but we have this idea that there's some kind of finality to it. And then we suffer because we're out of touch with reality, you see. We're resisting reality. Suffering comes from resisting reality itself. And not from reality. Nothing wrong with reality. Right? Reality is, even if there was something wrong with reality, well, big deal. What are you going to, it's reality. So you might as well get used to it. You know?